Hey guys, we're back here with the Fixin' a Ride series with Common Motor on the final episode. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jesse.
And we're gonna wrap this up. Is that good?
Wrap it, tap it.
Do it one more time.
We've both had our bikes at home for a while, riding about, and I have been chasing a gremlin on mine the entire time. In an effort to figure out what's going on, I have changed the condenser, the coil, and the intake manifold gasket. But working at home alone has been an experience because I realized I rely a lot on Caleb in the shop for knowledge and reassurance and encouragement and compliments. And so it was a different experience to get to be at home alone, just trying to dive in and figure it out on my own. And it helped me realize that I think almost anybody could do this.
I've also experienced a few issues since taking mine home. One of them was I was riding it off-road to test it, and I skipped some teeth on the cam chain. That was a super unexpected thing. Had to pull the whole engine out of the frame, replace the cam chain on it. And yeah, that was the main thing. I also took apart the starter because it still wasn't working after I rebuilt it, and realized there was some huge carnage inside the starter clutch. So I just took it out, and I'm running Kickstart only now. Those are the two main troubleshooting things I've done to it that really sorted this guy out to ride it every day. I continue to mess with the carbs, always.
It's not feel better.
Always mess with the carbs, but they're running pretty well now.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, now that we've talked a little bit about what we've been working on our motorcycles, let's talk budget. We started out this whole challenge with a $1,500 budget, and we really didn't have a good idea how that was going to play out. But more important than the budget has always been the three items that we need to keep in mind, which is safety, reliability, and performance on the motorcycle. If those are going to be compromised, we went over the budget. As if you've been waiting till the end of the episode, you'll probably know I've definitely went over the budget. I'm about double the budget now. So before this episode, I was at $2,625. Now, I've bought a few things since then to work on the bike. I had to buy a cam chain, which was 50 bucks. Had to buy a new seat because I had a huge gap. I tried to plug the gap with a fanny pack. Didn't look good. So that was $180. I also had to buy a starter removal plug. That was 20 bucks. I went ahead and put some new Icon shocks on the bike. I wasn't really enjoying how I was riding with the heavy duty shocks, and I wanted something a little bit nicer since I put all this time into the motorcycle. So we did that. We also put on a new shifter. That was 20 bucks. I also got it registered, titled in my name, and that was $60. Now, in addition to adding all those things to the total, which you can see right here, I also sold some parts to get some money back into that budget. We sold the old tank and side cover set that came on the motorcycle for 150 bucks. And we also sold a few other various parts from the grill motorcycle that made me about $152.79. So the actual total, shit, did I not write it down? The total that came out to be $3,071.21. Again, that's a lot more than the budget, but realistically, you shouldn't compromise on a lot of the stuff. We had a few expenses there just for fun, like the Icon shocks you don't need, but are an awesome upgrade. But really, if you're thinking about skipping something for the purpose of a budget, and it's gonna compromise either your safety, your reliability of the motorcycle, or the performance, don't. A $3,000 fully sorted CL450 is still a great deal, and I'm super excited about how it came out.
So since I got it home, I've had to put on a new coil, which was $52. I've replaced the condenser, which was $15. New intake manifold O-rings were $4, and new plugs were $8. I also went through Vermont to get it registered, and it was roughly about $50. So after all of that, we were looking at $1,999. But I sold some of the spare parts I got when I picked the bike up for $100. So now I'm sitting at an even $1,899. What a year. What a fucking year, 1899.
So another big part of our budgets is time. How long did we spend building these motorcycles? When we left off, I was right at 69 hours put into this project. With all the troubleshooting, pulling the engine out of the frame, I probably hit about 89 hours total, maybe 90, which is a lot of time. If you aren't doing the work yourself on a project like this, and you're paying a mechanic, you could be putting $5,000 to $10,000 just in labor costs alone. And that's one of the big advantages for us working on the bikes ourselves. How much time did you get?
Yeah, so before I took it home, I was sitting right about 94. And then again, chasing the Gremlin, we will say 120, 117, if we're being generous. So mechanics might be $100 an hour. That's 12 grand.
$12,000. None of these are $12,000 motorcycles.
And I will never pay me. I'm never gonna see that money.
So that's a good thing to keep in mind is do the work on your own bike, learn how to do it, because these are also not done. They're never gonna be done as a vintage motorcycle. You're always gonna have maintenance tasks to chase. We also didn't work in consumables like brake cleaner and shop rags, and we already had the tools. If you were working there without those things already, you need to make sure you have that in the budget to put the money into some tools that aren't gonna break parts of the motorcycle, and tons of brake cleaner.
So much brake cleaner. And at the end of the day, we aren't the brightest light bulbs in the light bulb box. And if we can do it, you can do it.
Speak for yourself.
I've watched you.
Yeah, she's right.
So with every decision that we made on what to do and what not to do, we were trying to work with our budget. And trying to stay within a budget, obviously we prioritized performance, safety, and reliability, but there are still some things that I skipped and some other things that Caleb skipped that we will probably go back and do. And for me, I didn't change my wheel bearings. I would feel better if I knew they were fresh. I didn't change my shocks. These ride okay, but down the line, I would feel safer if I knew that they weren't 50 years old. There's some cables that I didn't change because I couldn't find them not used as well, like speedometer and clutch. But other than that, I'm kind of a classics person, so I'm not gonna do a lot of nifty new shit to it. I just wanna continue chasing the things that I know will make this bike safer and more reliable, even if it's not an impending danger to me now.
Yeah, so as Jesse said, a few of the things that I skipped that I probably should have done and will do is I didn't replace the fork seals. I already have one of the boots starting to rip now, and I should have replaced the fork seals. Same with the wheel bearings. I should have at least pulled them out and repacked them with grease. The grease has been in there for 50 years. As far as future customizations, I am taking this bike on the Vintage 1000. That's why there's some crazy luggage setup on here right now. I've been slowly making a few pieces to be able to carry a lot of luggage on here and go 1,000 miles off-road. And in that vein, I'm gonna put some knobby tires on this and maybe a different higher fender and a few other off-road modifications that should make it handle a little bit better. Not good, just better off-road. One of the final things we wanted to talk about when working on these bikes is just the unforeseen things. When we picked them up, stuff we had no idea we were gonna have to get into, whether that was lack of knowledge or just not really knowing what's going on. For my bike, the biggest thing is probably the cam chain. That was a lot of work to pull the engine out of the frame and replace the whole cam chain, which is not an easy job on the 450s. I should have probably inspected the cam chain tensioner system when I was doing the initial work on the engine. That way I knew it was working and it was tightening the cam chain, but instead I had to pull it all out, replace it. Same for the rocker arm shafts. I ended up having to pull all those out because they were super stripped. I really didn't look at the engine when I bought the bike, and I probably should have checked it a little bit more. That was a big thing to hunt those down. They were hard to find.
I'm sure we all remember the bent valve fiasco. there was no predicting a bent valve in the engine. So pretty soon out the gate, I got hit with pulling the engine and diving in first time. It was a time suck, stressful. I didn't like it, but I did it. And the other thing was just the original setup was a disc brake. And the parts were hard to come by. The parts on the bike were in terrible shape. And so we ended up switching it out to a drum brake. And that was not the original plan, but she stops nice.
We soaked that caliper for 5 months and I still couldn't get stuff apart. So 5 months.
So I am super excited, and I'm sure Caleb is too, to have these bad boys up and going and being able to ride them. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun on the smaller bike than what I'm used to. But the reality is that the work on a vintage motorcycle is never done. They're old, they're tired, they're like me. So there's always gonna need to be tweaking and tuning and adjusting, and there's always gonna be that one thing that you didn't think of that happens to go out. It's a romance. You have to put some effort into it.
What we've done is we've gotten them to a certain point at the top of a hill, but there's a lot further we could take these motorcycles. We could repaint a tank, we could polish some chrome or some aluminum here, but this is really the base you need to bring every single vintage motorcycle you're working on to. You need to have it safe, you need to have it perform well, like it's supposed to, and you need to have it reliable. If you don't have all those three things, you really need to get it there, because this is the base. And we've got them to the base now, and now we can begin to customize them and enjoy them now that we know that they're where they should be. My bike was a good example. I mean, it was the failed Cafe Racer, the classic, like, bad Craigslist find you find on the bad thing. But it was a prime example. It had some weird custom mods, but nothing else was done properly on it. Start with the real stuff that's gonna get you on the bike, get it riding, get it safe, and get it where it needs to be, and then do the fun stuff after that. All right, so this is Caleb.
And Jesse.
Again, for the last time, this is the Fixin' a Ride series with Common Motor.
Signing out for the last time.
Signing out.
And don't forget to like us on Instagram and Facebook.
Subscribe to our newsletter over at common-motor.com in the up-hand corner. And subscribe right down below to this YouTube channel. We'll have future content that will be awesome, all about the motorcycles. You may even see these ones again. We'll see you next time.